Hey, this is Derek Jordan. Welcome to the World Fusion Show, where we bring you the leading innovators in world fusion music. Today, my guest is Sylvain Leroux, who plays the Fula flute. Welcome, Sylvain, to the World Fusion Show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Derek.
So glad you could join us. And I just wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your background and your unusual instrument, the Fula flute, which is from Guinea and West Africa, played throughout Senegal and West Africa and Guinea. Tell us a little bit about how you got into music to start with.
I got into music. I love music ever since I can remember when I was a kid. And of course, I grew up when the Beatles came on the scene, and then rock and roll, and then my big idol was Jimi Hendrix, and I became a guitar player at age 13, and then this group Jethro Tull came on the scene, and I loved the flute, and a girl brought a flute to school, and I was fascinated by it, and so I procured myself a flute. And eventually went to classical music school, studied classical flute, and then was diverted into jazz. I listened mostly from the record Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, totally turned me on to jazz, and then became a real jazz snob and studied jazz privately. There wasn't really a school program at the time for jazz, and eventually found my way to the Creative Music Studio in Woodstock, New York, a school that was founded by Carl Berger in association with Ornette Coleman. And I went there, I was 22 years old, and had my mind blown with teachers like Don Cherry, the Art Ensemble of Chicago, Leo Smith, Steve Lacy, Carla Bley, Jimmy Giuffre, the list goes on. And also, most importantly, Leo Smith and Don Cherry were the first two teachers I had. We had a visiting artist every week, and first week we had Leo Smith and Don Cherry. And then Leo Smith, before Don Cherry came, he told me about the concept of world music. And that just blew my mind, that now the world was becoming unified, through the media. Of course, in Montreal, when I was a kid, we had Expo 67, and the whole world came to Montreal, and I attended that expo a lot. I had a pass, so I went there. And then when you mentioned world music, the whole idea that, yeah, of course, I grew up with all these sounds and all these influences, and they're part of me, and they want to come out of me in my own expression. And then, of course, following, and he said the main two people in world music were Harry Partch and Don Cherry. And of course, the following week we had Don Cherry. And then my brain just blew up and exploded. And I just became a world music convert, and proceeded. And also by the whole Creative Music Studio experience just blew up my whole concept of myself and my music and everything. And then I just kind of had spent the rest of my life since then just putting the pieces back together.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you live in New York and have been there quite a while now. And we're going to go to a video with Kevin Nathaniel, who plays Mbira, and has been on the show before. Actually, tell us a little bit about this video.
Well, Kevin and I go back 30 years. We've kind of gotten in and out of playing with each other, and we've been in a lot of situations. And of course, we're both African music lovers and aficionados and practitioners. And this was in a little cafe. I had started this little series. This little cafe had beautiful acoustics, and I thought, I'd like to play with Kevin. And this is one of my songs. It's called Oshosi. And we just played it together and improvised.
Great. Let's go to the video. Hey, we are back with Sylvain Leroux. And Sylvain, I wanted you just to share with us some of your, you started a group with Yaya Diallo and did some pretty cool stuff there, made a CD. Tell us about that.
Well, I didn't really start the group. I joined the group. Yaya was on the scene, had put together an African music and dance company, and I saw them play just fresh out of Creative Music Studio with my world music ideas. And I saw him play, and I approached him and to sit in, and he let me sit in. And then it's something he appreciated about myself. He thought I was listening. So then he let me join, and then I was sitting on the bench for a long time, like he tested me, my motivation, and eventually he found he's part Fulani, so the flute is part of his DNA, and he needed somebody approached him to do an album. That was a record in those days, 1980. And he had me play flute on it. And turns out it was the very first African music record ever produced in Canada. Also at the time, it was like almost impossible to find any African music in a record store. The only African record you found was Olatunji, and we were like the second one after Olatunji.
Right.
And so that was a wonderful experience.
So great. Now we're going to go to the next video, which is a flute duet Fula Flute duet. Tell us about this.
Well, after learning the Fula flute, I came back to New York, and for a few years, I was the only Fula flute player I could locate, and in all of North America. And then, lo and behold, this guy Bailo Ba arrived in '99, and I met him right there and then. And so I approached him to work together, and he was amenable, and we've been working together for 20 years. So this video is from a concert we did in 2015 at Roulette in Brooklyn.
All right, fantastic. Let's go to the video right now. right, we are back with Sylvain Leroux and the magic Fula flute. Now, Sylvain, you've done a lot of work teaching the flute in Guinea to young children, and you really have done great stuff with really encouraging these kids to focus on their own culture. Tell us about that work.
Wow, it's a big story. I'll try to make it quick. I through a long series of events, I had the idea of teaching kids in Guinea to read and write music using my modification of the Fula flute I made. And so in 2013, I went over there and I found this organization called Centre Tiabala de Guinea, who were arts activists, if you will, who would recruit indigent children and give them basic education and training in the arts of the stage and music, traditional music in Guinea. And I was able to contribute the flute, and it was like putting a spark to dynamite, and it just went crazy for the flute, and they couldn't get enough of it. And since I couldn't really spend that much time there, I asked one of my teachers, Mamadi Mansare, who was a star of the Ballet Africain, and he was very happy to teach them because his flute tradition was kind of teetering, and these kids were eager to learn. So he's been teaching there, and they became fantastic flute players, to the point where one of our students now, one of our graduates, is the soloist at the Ballet Africain now.
That's fantastic. We're going to go to a video that shows you teaching kids in practice. Do you want to say anything else about this video?
Well, this was recording sessions we did. We produced a new CD in 2019 called Tiabala, and this actually was a class of Bouba Mbeng, who still is teaching them traditional repertoire, and I was playing a solo on there.
Yeah, very cool. Let's go to the video right now. Hey, we are back with Sylvain Leroux. Sylvain, you actually innovated and created a chromatic Fula flute. Tell us how you went about that.
Well, after I met Bailo and we worked together, we launched a CD called Fula Flute in 2002. And that CD just hit the world with a bang and went around the world. And like a lot of people just wanted to get a flute, and they contacted me. So it was hard to get a supply of flutes from Africa, and also that they would not necessarily be in tune. So of course, people who buy a flute, they want to play it with their friends, and so you want a flute that's decently in tune. So I learned to make them. I got a supply of traditional wood and learned to make them and started selling them around the world. And I was doing pretty good for a while, but some other competition came, so that kind of dried up for me a little bit. But in the process of learning to make them, one day I was sitting around trying to solve a problem that I was having with playing with ballophones. And I thought, oh, well, maybe if I take this flute and move those two holes up and tape them, tape the other holes, and then I could have a flute I could play in that key. And I did that, so I had like a 5-hole flute now. And I'm checking the flute, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. Oh, shoot, if I put another hole in there, I got the F sharp, then I got the whole chromatic scale. Long story short. So that was very exciting. It was a brand new instrument, and got really excited. I managed to patent it. And also to learn to play it. It's a bit of a mind bender, but it's very exciting because it brings all the sounds, the really powerful Fula flute sound that you can apply to anything, particularly effective in the blues or avant-garde music or any kind of music you want. I play classical music on it. I play any melody I want. Of course, it's got its limitations. You can't play a Bach sonata on it, really. You can play some pieces, work, some pieces don't, but it just opens up a tremendous wide world of music, and it's very, very exciting.
That's so great. Now we're going to go to our final video, which is you and a bunch of kids in the village. Tell us about this video.
Well, that was last February. I visited the region, the origin of the Fula flute. Just to specify, there's two styles of flute playing in Guinea. There's the Fulani style and the Malinke style. Malinke being represented by Mamadi Mansare, who's been teaching our kids. And then there's a Fula style, which is in a region comes from a region called Fouta Djalon. And I have a colleague, a good friend who's been playing the Fula flute pretty much as long as I have, Thomas Val, who's an American who lives in Paris. And he gave me an appointment to meet in the Fouta Djalon and visit his master's village called Nakoje. And then that day, we found ourselves playing for the whole village who were fixing the road. So we spent several hours under the sun playing nonstop for the people fixing the road. And then all the kids and the women and everything, they came, surrounded us and clapping their hands and singing while we're playing. It was very exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Very exciting, rambunctious video. All right, let's go to it right now.
Okay.
All right, we are back with Sylvain Leroux. Now you have a new CD that just came out.
Well, actually, it's not a CD, it's a vinyl and digital. It's called Chromatica, and it's basically the coming out presentation to the world of the chromatic flute. And the album kind of shows an array of different kinds of music that you could play with it.
And can they get that on your website?
Yeah, if you go to fulaflute.net, anything connected with me or the school or whatever, you could go to fulaflute.net, fulaflute.net, and there's a bunch of links, but the album's available on Bandcamp under my name.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Sylvain, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing really all the great work you've been doing with the flute and with people in Guinea. Thanks so much for being part of the World Fusion Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Take care now. All right.
All right. Take care.
Hey, this is Derek Jordan. Thank you for joining us today on the World Fusion Show. It's been great to have you. And please subscribe to us on YouTube, check us out on Facebook, and share this episode and others with your friends who you think would enjoy world music. I want to say a big thank you to Mackenzie Family Charitable Trust, Chris Pratt, Ron Dans, and Nancy Feinberg for their generous support. And remember, think globally, listen locally, and support independent music.